Hello, welcome to the video. This is on Chapter 5, Property Management System Interfaces. So we have our PMS, it's great, everything's good, but we have other needs, right? So we can have systems that are independent, that just are standalone. But interfacing them is tying that system to our PMS system because there's a lot of shared data, a lot of similar data. Why collect data twice? If you have the same data in two different systems that are not talking to each other, then what do we have? We have a situation where we could be reading the data wrong on one another because this one influences it in one way and the other one influences it another way, and we have all kinds of problems. So when it comes to interfaces, we want to connect all those things together, but we want to do it in a smart way. We want to make sure that we don't cause any problems. Okay, so there are issues that could happen. And one of the things I wanted to talk about this is many of you have had me in other classes when I'm talking about the success or failure of a hospitality company or business. I often say that buying well is important. Well, buying well, what do I mean by that? Is buying the right product, the right price from the right vendor at the right time, uh, and whatever other rates that you can think of, right? So, um, it's the same with our systems. And it's even if we have already purchased the system, buying right, spending money to do an interfacing these systems, is important as well, right? Because we can make some disastrous choices, and there's a lot of issues. We're going to talk about some of these. All right, so which application should be interfaced? Which should just be left alone and be a different interface or a different system, or can we do everything that is on this would-be interface system? Can we do it on the PMS just in a different way? If it's a little less convenient, does it really matter? Those are the things that should we really answer. All right. Then, how will the lodging operation benefit from the interface? If we interface this, what's our pros and cons? All right. Are we giving something up, or is it all positive? Is it all negative? And it's never going to be one or the other, right? There's going to be pros and cons. We need to weigh all that out. All right. Vendors should perform. Which vendor should perform the interface? If we have the two systems, we have a PMS system. We have a lot of support coming from the vendor in that. And we have a lot of support coming from this independent system. When we connect them together, who's going to do it? Is it going to be the PMS people, or is it going to be these people? I don't. There's no answer for that without knowing, right? So you have to look into that. Uh, how can management be sure that the interface is even working properly? Yeah, this is great. Somebody says, yeah, we're going to interface these two things together. So now when you put in data in this one, it shows up on this one automatically, and vice versa. When numbers are taken and adjusted on this one, it shows up on this one, and vice versa, right? How do we know that, right? If we just assuming it's happening, well, wow, it's like we had that much money and we made that much revenue, but the interface has caused things to be missed. That's a problem. So we need to know how we can check that at a glance, or at least in the easiest way possible. We need to know how we can make sure. All right, because things change, right? Everything's working. If we could ignore it and we have no way of knowing that the interface is working, we could be looking at incorrect data, and that could be a problem. All right. So the next one is, will the interface maintain the integrity of the data? Uh, Pretty much what I was just saying. Will it maintain the integrity of the data? Will it always be correct? Right? Because a system, you've heard garbage in, garbage out, right? Well, that makes sense. So if I put something in right, it's going to be right. Put something in wrong, it's going to be wrong. But what if, when we have too many add-ons and too many interfaces, what if we put something in right, but it still comes out wrong? How will that happen? So we need to make sure that we have to have confidence in that. All right. And this one here, I like this one here. Will vendor support be compromised by the interface? All right. If we have support from one vendor and it's top notch, and then we put in an add-on here, and then we have a problem, and we need to make sure that the support's not going to diminish because he just says that's not my issue, right? Well, it might be his issue, right? But sometimes if you have two systems and an interface is failing, and who's gonna take the blame on that, right? So it's like it's their problem, it's their problem. I've seen this happen actually, and I'm not a big system guy as far as computer systems, but I've even in my level of interaction with computer systems, I've seen this happen. All right, so you need to ask that question: will my vendor support change? All right. Okay, so making the correct choice. Um, Connecting separate applications to the PMS is not without risk, right? Doing these interfaces is not without risk. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that we use the 5 C's of interfacing to minimize risk. The best thing we can do is minimize risk. We're not going to eliminate it. So what are those 5 C's? The 5 C's are confidence. We have to have confidence. You have to test each system separately. I cannot be confident of an interface if I'm not confident of both things or the two systems, 45 different systems independently on their own, right? We have to make sure that they work on their own. We have to be confident in this, right? So the next one would be contracts. This is important. This goes back to what I was talking about your vendor support. You have to make sure that you're not voiding any contracts. You're not breaching any contracts, because a lot of software companies, when they have a contract with you, they're going to stand behind their system. They're going to stand behind their system, and they'll a lot of times they do a lot of different work for you because there's so many different problems, but it's their system. It's their system alone. They will spend the time to figure out what's going on. They will do all the analyzing and just deep search and long hours, but they want to make sure that they're getting your support back, right? You're following their contract, and they might put something in there that if you go with somebody else and you interface with our system, it'll void certain aspects of the contract. So you want to make sure that that's not going to happen, because that can be very problematic. All right. Oops. What the heck just happened? All right. Communications. Determine who, what, when, and how. When we're beginning an interfacing, we want to know who's going to do what, when is it going to happen, things of that nature. The other C, what the fourth C is comparison. Contact users who succeeded with this interface, with the same interface. People that have had this PMS and this thing, or even just this one, and see how it interacts with their PMS, whatever interface with their PMS. Make some comparisons. Make sure that you're looking at that and seeing that it worked. What were the problems, and things of that nature. All right. And then this one's contingency. Develop procedures for downtime in case the interface stops working. Well, it's not going to stop working, right? I mean, why would it? You're paying somebody to make sure that it works. Well, here's the thing. Computers do. Every computer kind of has glitches from time to time, right? Now let's look at that. If we know that a computer might have some problems, a system might have some problems from time to time. Now we have two independent ones, right? We have two independent ones, and they're trying to work together. So what is one of the things that will cause a little bit of a glitch in the system, right? I know on my phone and stuff like that, it's upgrades, right? You have an upgrade going on. Well, that upgrade now creates a problem with one feature, but it helps another feature, but it creates a problem with the other. So when you have two things working together, they're going to upgrade. I mean, they have to. They have to upgrade because for whatever it's cybersecurity and other different reasons, they cannot just sell you something and forget about it. It's always being upgraded. But when the add-on gets an upgrade, it might create a problem with its interface with the other one. Right? So you have to have contingencies to make sure that if that happens, or I should say when it happens, what are you going to do? Yes, these things can be fixed, but there will be some downtime, right? What are we going to do to downtime? Are we going back to, are we doing some kind of backup systems where we can always go back to a previous version for a short period of time? And then when we go back online, will they will they automatically interface in a way that the data that we did during the downtime is going to be upgraded and whatever. We need to figure that out before it happens. All right. So, okay. So the 5 C's. So some of the best practice here. No matter what we do, we cannot eliminate the risk of implementing certain interfaces to our systems. Nevertheless, we can minimize it. We cannot eliminate, but we can minimize it. All right. There are certain situations when we're talking about minimizes, there's certain things that you should avoid. There's some nevers. Never do this. All right. And those are never be the first to use a user of an interface. Uh, it's like you might say to yourself, well, that's kind of messed up because somebody's got to be the first one. Yeah, let that somebody be our competition, right? Because there's always going to be problems being the first, right? It's not that there's a bad company or bad technicians or anything like that. It's just always going to be issues. Let those issues fall on somebody else's shoulders, right? Not ours. All right. Never be the largest user interface. If you're asking somebody and you have a big system, you're a big company, right? You're a national chain, and somebody's trying to sell you this, and you're trying to make a decision on this interface, and they say to you, "Yeah, this is great. It's great, great, great. We have so many different companies that use it." And you look at these companies, and they're all significantly smaller than you are. And you ask the question, how does it work with someone with an account as big as ours? And they kind of look at you and they say, well, we believe and we think. What do you mean you believe, you think? Has this ever done it? Have you ever done it with somebody as big as us? And they say, no, but we're confident. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. All right. Never be the biggest and never be the last. Here's the thing. When you buy software or when you're dealing with salesmen in any different ways, there is information out there whether or not that this particular add-on, this particular thing, is at the end of its life cycle. All right, and you need to do research to make sure that it's not at the end of its life cycle. You're never going to be that last sale that they're trying to save the business on, right? You don't want to be that person, right? So I said never be the last, but just never hop on somebody who's desperate for your business to the point where it's if we don't get you as a contract, we're done. All right. You don't want to do that. All right. So let's finish up here. So PMS interfaces for hotel operations. We've been talking about that. So here are some of the interfaces. We're not going to talk about these. You can do research on your own. You will be doing research on your own. You'll be reading chapters and everything like that. But this video was just on some basics on interfaces in general. But here are some of the ones that we deal with. Central reservation systems, point of sale system, interfacing PMS with the POS, call accounting systems, electronic locking systems. Yeah, you could have a locking system that's completely independent, but it helps to have it integrated or interface, excuse me. Emergency management systems, auxiliary guest services, guest operation devices, and quite frankly, there's many more. All right, but these are the ones that our textbook went ahead and focused on, and you can read all about those. Okay, so that is interfaces in a nutshell. Make sure you look at these and you understand what they're all doing, and make sure that you understand if you're ever in the position that you have to make a decision about interfacing or buying and purchasing a program for interfacing, that you take all this stuff seriously, because you can screw yourself over very quickly. All right. Have a good week.